Once we get through the discover phase, the design phase is where the fun really starts, at least in my opinion. I personally enjoy the design phase for most of the partnership structuring projects. Again, there are two things we need to design: the partnership itself and how all parties involved derive shared value and shared benefits, as well as the solution or innovation that the partnership is supposed to bring. So let's talk about relationships. We will start with the types of possible bilateral relationships. So let's say we have only two parties involved, A and B. Let's say that a solid arrow in one direction, in this case A to B, means that A provides a direct or explicit benefits to B, and it's strictly one way. So what can we say about such relationships? We can say that the relationship is very one-sided. In real life, we can say that one party extends a lot of goodwill to the other, or the relationship is parasitic. But we probably see this kind of bilateral relationships more often, where two parties provides direct or explicit benefits to each other. Such relationships tend to be mutually beneficial. You could say it's transactional. Trading relationships are like that. You provide me the money, I provide you with the goods. It could also be possible that one party provides a direct or explicit benefit to the other, but the other party provides a more indirect and implicit benefit. The relationship is still mutually beneficial, just that the timeline is now asymmetric. One party provides the benefit to the other party quicker, while the other party returns the favor in a much slower manner. You could say that branding works like that. A company pays an obscene amount of money to a celebrity to be a brand ambassador. Now, the celebrity is not going to be able to guarantee measurable metrics of how much the brand will grow. But if the company made their bets on the right celebrity, they may get good ROI on the brand recognition over time. But it's almost impossible to get immediate returns despite an immediate investment. You could also argue that technically, a company's CSR program is like that too. Let's say a company works with a non-profit or a beneficiary group that needs help. The company will be pouring in resources that they know they may never get a return on. But if the CSR project is done right, over time, it may earn press coverage, better employee satisfaction, or positive brand perception over time. Again, the key word is over time. Immediate investments but long-term returns. Now, the last one is when both parties only benefit each other implicitly and indirectly. Such relationships are still mutually beneficial, just that they are long-term mutually beneficial relationships. Now, all that we have mentioned just now were just bilateral. This is where we get to the fun part, multilateral relationships. There's three common ones we've seen. The first one, an alliance is a loose network where all parties collaborate together, leverage on each other as and when necessary. There's no obligations, so it's quite organic. Most partnership networks, network associations, and trade associations kind of work like that. The second one, the joint venture, is slightly different. It involves all parties to pool resources together into another new shared third-party entity. This entire relationship is formalized by legal agreements where they talk about contractual obligations of all parties involved, the penalties if any one party were to default on their commitment, etc. The parties involved may not benefit directly from one another, but they will benefit from this joint venture entity that they have invested in. Joint ventures are pretty common in the business world. The last one could be a little mind-boggling. It's what happens when all parties involved only provides benefits in one direction, but it comes back full circle, so that everyone in the big picture benefits. We call this partnership arrangement a circular partnership. Technically, most online platforms that don't charge its users is employing this model one way or another. Since this is not immediately intuitive, let us zoom in a little bit more into this relationship model. We will use Facebook as an example. Facebook has spent billions providing us end users with an amazing platform that helps us to reconnect with friends, share our media, initiate chats, etc. But are we paying Facebook for using this platform? The answer is no, we are not. So if that's the case, who's paying Facebook? Companies and advertisers are the ones paying Facebook. In fact, they pay huge amount of money to have their ads displayed on their platform. But why would they do that? That's because we, as the platform users, are actually paying back the advertisers with our attention and our eyeballs. We spend time viewing their advertisements, and hopefully some of these advertisements may lead to some form of sign-ups or purchases, and that closes the whole loop. If we scrutinize this entire model again, at a high level, what's really amazing is you do notice that the benefits really flow only in just one. If we scrutinize this entire model again, at a high level, what's really amazing is that the social enterprise proposed to the big software company an interesting idea of getting them to sponsor the development of a mobile app for rural sanitation data collection, leveraging on the big software company's technologies. However, to collect the data, they would need to rely on local data collection agents that they can trust. So they would have to partner with a local NGO who have access to these trustworthy data collection agents, put a phone in all of their hands, train them on how to use the app, and manage them. What all of these data collection agents need to do is to snap photos of public toilets, geotag them, and then on a scale of 1 to 10, rate how clean, functional, and safe these toilets are. Over time, the system will get smarter and be able to leverage on this technology to automatically identify the state of the toilet just from the photo, say a clean toilet from a dirty one. At the end of the project, the data will be compiled into a dashboard presented to the local government, where we can show them that out of 2,000 public toilets we surveyed in that area, 80% of them are either dirty, unsafe, or dysfunctional. The NGO can try to convince the government to improve the state of these toilets, and the NGO has a method of operating these toilets in a sustainable manner. So if this project goes well, the impact created would be the number of people who have access to cleaner, safer, and more functional toilets. Then everyone would take a step back and say, oh, by the way, this project is made possible by the technology of this particular software company. And then we will let the representatives of this software company continue the conversation with the government from there. It's a door opening opportunity for them. Now, let's see how this entire partnership actually looks like when the whole partnership value chain is illustrated. You will need to pay attention not only to the stakeholders identified, but also the services and resources exchanged. So we have the social enterprise and the big software multinational corporation. To be more specific, we are talking about the business development division of the software company. Now, the biz dev team is seeing this whole thing as a business development opportunity, which is why they are willing to sponsor the whole project. Remember, we mentioned they would need a local NGO who have access to local trustworthy data collection agents. This is where we come in. As we were representing World Vision's South Asia and Pacific regional office back then, so we are coordinating with the other program implementing officers in the region. Now, there's no way the BizDev team of the software company can possibly give directly to an NGO. Channel the money to us in the form of a philanthropic program. Grant, since this entire project has a strong impact component to it. Now, we will also channel some part of the budget to the social enterprise who initiated this whole project, as they will be the ones who will be actually developing the mobile app. Now, these data collection agents provides data back If things go according to plan, then the local government, better public, and to close the loop, the software And to close the loop, the social enterprise would have actually provided the software company with market access in a very indirect and sophisticated way. Now, believe it or not, we have actually simplified this diagram a little, or else it would have been extremely hard to follow if we have included all the details and all the arrows pointing around. What's beautiful about this entire story, though, is how all stakeholders involved would have benefited from this arrangement, so all parties involved would have been happy with the outcome. Now pause the video and in your workbook, sketch the value chain of your ideal partnership. List out all the stakeholders and be clear what are the services and resources that are being exchanged. Okay, we have only spoken about one part of the designing process, which is designing the partnership value chain. Now we need to talk about designing the solution or the innovation itself. When it comes to designing the solution, we would definitely suggest you consider the human-centered design or design thinking framework, which was popularized by the renowned design firm IDEO. The reason why we like this framework is because it puts the end user or the person at the center of the entire solutioning process. What is it like going through the problem through the lens of the person? How would the person feel? What is his or her pain point? We will not be talking about the details of this entire human-centered design cycle, as this is a completely separate workshop in itself, and there are plenty of resources online that talks about this framework already. However, we found that the ideate stage of the cycle can be often a little skimpy in most resources. Most resources kind of refer to this portion pretty matter-of-factly. For non-designers, this part is actually very challenging. We almost feel like there's a need for another framework just to get the ideate stage going. The one we like the most is the Innovation Genome Framework, developed by the design software company AutoCAD. They claim that they derived this framework after studying the greatest 1,000 innovations in human history over the past 3.4 million years and boiled it down to its essence. Basically, the framework suggests that you consider these 7 questions with respect to an innovation target. What could we look at in a new way? What could we use in a new way or for the first time? What could we move, change its position in space or time? What could we interconnect for the first time or in a new way? What could we alter in terms of design and performance? What could we make that is truly new? What can we imagine that would create a great experience for someone? Each of these 7 questions further expands into 7 sub-questions, which gives you a comprehensive 7x7 matrix. Again, it's not within the scope of this tutorial to talk about the Innovation Genome Framework in its entirety. We would just want you to know that this framework exists. We found it helpful to complement the human-centered design framework, and you should check it out. So with this, we have covered the second phase of our 3D process, design.